So you're serious about preparedness and you want to make sure you have magazines for all your firearms in case maybe one day you can't get any more. And of course your pistol is really important because you conceal carry it all the time and it's something that you could use for self-defense and everything else. Well, the best advice when it comes to magazines for your handgun is to buy factory OEM magazines. They're specifically designed to work properly in the pistol unless the gun itself is just not a good gun and not from a good quality manufacturer. So a lot of people will try to save money in that department and they'll look outwardly to the aftermarket from brands like Magpul or ETS or many other brands. And some of those magazines work pretty well, but I would never suggest using them for concealed carry or for duty purposes or anything like that because we're talking about having to save your life and you want to rely on the best quality magazines you possibly can find. But those ETS and Magpul mags might work pretty well, especially on the range, so no big deal, right? Well, there's one brand of magazine that you just shouldn't buy. And for some reason, everybody's still buying them because somehow they've been in business since 1978. And that's ProMag. Now, ProMag, you would think everyone would be aware of the fact that they're just not known to be very reliable. But they're still being sold. So I guess we need to remind everybody that they're not the best magazines out there. So one thing I want to show here is that I do have a ProMag magazine. Now, I didn't buy this because, well, to be honest with you, I just want it. I would never suggest anyone buy a ProMag. And in fact, the biggest supporter of this channel is Midway USA, and Midway USA carries a lot of ProMag magazines. But I'm telling you right now, don't buy them. It's worth the extra money to get factory OEM magazines for your pistol. And then until you have at least 6, I would say, that's what you should be buying. And then anything past that, if you want to use it just for the range or for malfunction testing and everything else, go for it. ETS, Magpul, whatever, but not ProMag. It's just basically a waste of money. So the biggest issue with ProMag is that sometimes they work, and that pulls the veil of illusion over everybody's eyes because in their sample case of 1 or 10 or whatever it might be, they've had a pretty good luck. Now, a lot of times this is because the people who are claiming that don't really shoot all that much or don't have much to compare them to. And I want to just show you a couple things in regards to this particular magazine because it ended up in my possession without any fault of mine. It happened during a trade situation and somehow ended up with a P320 ProMag in my possession. I did not spend money on it, but it does give me a good sample to show you about what might not work well with it and compare it to the factory P320 magazine and just give you some of my thoughts because all in all, this magazine's been decently reliable in the sense of feeding and function for the most part, but it has some glaring issues right off the bat, still has some glaring issues, and I still wouldn't recommend it. And that's why friends don't let friends ProMag, okay? So let me compare the two. I'll show you some shooting of the magazine. I'll give you some of my final thoughts, but honestly, please just don't buy ProMag if you're actually serious about being prepared. It's not a serious magazine, and the magazine is what feeds your gun. So if you're not going to be serious about making sure that the device that's specifically made to feed ammunition into your firearm, then you're probably not serious about using it for anything other than on the range having fun. And that's okay if that's what you're using these for, I guess. Even then, I wouldn't spend the money on them. But anything past that, you're fooling yourself. So let's get into it. All right, let's compare the ProMag to the factory SIG P320 mag. Got those right here. This is the ProMag. This is the P320 mag. Obviously, they're going to have similar geometry on the outside, but there are some subtle differences. And you can kind of see that between the two. You know, no engravings on this side for the round count. On this one, you do have it. And then, of course, everything looks about the same until you get to the followers. Now, the follower on the ProMag definitely has a different design and geometry than the one from the factory SIG mag. And that's where a lot of the issues that I've been running into seem to be coming from. So, what's causing it? Well, it seems like the shape of this follower and just the overall geometry of it likes to get stuck in the nosedive position pretty easily. If you can't tell, it's just in there now. So, try to push on it on the back end here so I can get it to pop up. There we go. And every time it does that, I'm not exactly sure what induces it originally, but that's when you stop having the ability for the slide to lock back on empty. And that happens a lot. And that's a problem because that's kind of an indicator that you need to reload. So right off the bat, this magazine's already inducing malfunctions that shouldn't be happening that aren't user error. So another thing that I would want to point out here is the fact that this magazine is extremely difficult to load to its full capacity. So I'm just going to load it real quick. I got 17 rounds of 9mm right here. And this is all that amazing production quality that you get here on the Magic Prepper YouTube channel. And of course, you know, I obviously have been scouted by certain companies over in La La Land, but I refuse to give them my soul. So instead, I'm just going to load magazines slowly on camera here and hopefully maintain some level of cordial relationship with the Heavenly Father. Okay, so let's keep going here. Move forward on this 17 round loading system, which I for some reason felt like I had to demonstrate fully. Okay, so we're up to 16 now, and that is really hard to get in there. And now we got to do number 17. So there's probably some binding or something like that happening in here, but I don't know exactly what causes it, but this thing is almost impossible to load to 17. But we're going to do it anyway, and I'll show you. It's doable, but it is not easy to do. Well, actually, this time around, it might not be doable. Hold on. I've gotten it to 17. Trust me. Okay. Maybe we're just at 16. I was trying to make the point that the 17th round was really hard to load. I actually can't do it now. Wait, hold on. There we go. No, maybe. It's only kind of in there. Yeah, that's a problem. Okay. So, like I said, that's not ideal. This magazine is much easier to load. So what do you think about the ProMag? Let me know in the comments below. But in all honesty, I wouldn't buy this magazine. I don't suggest anyone buy any ProMags when there's so many other aftermarket options out there that actually work pretty well and cost about the same. But ProMags just don't work right. This one is not working properly, and I haven't done anything to it other than just tried to use it for what it was built for, right? So also let us know in the comments if you have other aftermarket magazines that you have ran and find that work well, because that might be beneficial to people here in the community. But in general, if you're worried about protecting your life with your handgun, you need to get factory OEM magazines. And I honestly believe you should have at least 6 from the factory, so that way you're carrying those magazines, using those magazines, you have backups in case you might run out or not be able to get more at some point in time, but you also can then add on aftermarket magazines in the meantime once you have those first 6. But aftermarket mags for me, like this ProMag, are just for on the range and just for training. I don't use them for self-defense. I don't want to bet my life on a magazine like this. And in all honesty, I don't even want to buy a ProMag, and neither should you. And I'm just trying to save you guys money. This is a waste of money. This is a bad magazine, and every ProMag I've ever heard about has had issues. So what's the point? Spend a little bit extra money to get a better aftermarket magazine, or if you're like me, I would rather have 10 factory OEM magazines than 20 of these, right? Because they're usually about half the price, sometimes even lower than half, but I'd rather have 10 factory mags than 25 of these, because I want my magazines to work and do what they're supposed to do, and it's honestly how you should approach it. 10 magazines that actually work right are always going to be better than 100 magazines that don't work properly. And that's just the way it works. So hopefully this gave you something to think about. Hopefully you're not out buying ProMags because, like I said, friends don't let friends ProMag.